You're holding your baby close, maybe after a feed, maybe while walking around the room, maybe in that quiet moment when everything finally calms down. And then you notice it again. Those tiny hands curled tight into little fists. Sometimes they press against your chest, sometimes they tighten around your shirt. Sometimes they stay closed while your baby stares at you with that serious, unreadable expression that somehow feels bigger than their tiny body. And if you've ever looked at those clenched fists and wondered, what is my baby trying to tell me? You're not imagining that there's meaning there. Because long before babies can speak, point, or intentionally gesture, they communicate through tension, posture, movement, stillness, and touch. Their whole body becomes the message. Most parents hear one simple answer. Clenched fists mean hunger. Or they hear another one. It's just a newborn reflex. But if that were the full story, it wouldn't feel so different from moment to moment. It wouldn't happen during feeding, during fussing, during quiet cuddles, and during those strange in-between moments when your baby seems calm and tense at the same time. The truth is, a baby's clenched fists can mean more than most parents realize. They can reflect hunger, yes, but they can also reveal how a baby organizes their body, responds to touch, handles stimulation, and even uses your presence to feel more secure. In other words, those tiny fists may not just be random baby behavior. They may be one of the earliest clues to how your baby experiences being with you. And once you see that, the question changes. It's no longer just, why are their hands closed? It becomes, what is their whole body trying to say right now? And that's where this gets much deeper.
Let's start with the explanation most parents already know. Babies clench their fists when they're hungry, and sometimes that is absolutely true. Early feeding cues often include bringing hands toward the mouth, sucking on hands, turning toward the breast or bottle, lip smacking, and yes, clenched hands. So if your baby's fists are tight right before a feed, that's not a coincidence. But here's the problem. Parents are often taught to stop there. Closed fists equals hunger. Open hands equals full. Simple, clean, easy to remember. But babies are rarely that simple. Because babies also clench their fists when they're not hungry at all. They do it when they're alert. They do it when they're overwhelmed. They do it during intense eye contact. They do it while being held. They do it when they're trying to settle themselves. So if you treat every clenched fist like a food signal, your baby can start feeling confused very quickly. Then comes the second common explanation. It's just a reflex. Again, that's partly true. Newborns are born with primitive reflexes, automatic patterns that help them survive and function before they have intentional control over their movements. But saying it's just a reflex makes it sound meaningless, and it isn't. A reflex is not random. It's the body doing something important before the brain can explain it. It's early wiring, early organization, early adaptation. So even when a clenched fist is reflexive, it's still part of a much bigger story about how your baby's nervous system is working at that moment. That's why the most accurate answer is not hunger or reflex. It's often both, plus something else, something emotional, physical, and deeply connected to the way babies experience comfort, stimulation, and closeness. And once we look at how a newborn's body is actually built to function, those little fists begin to make a lot more sense. In the early months, babies live through their nervous system more than through deliberate choice. Their movements are not smooth and intentional the way adult movements are. They are patterned, automatic, and strongly tied to body state. That's why newborns often keep their arms and legs bent and their hands closed. Their posture is naturally flexed, almost like they're still carrying the memory of the womb. And that matters. Because when your baby clenches their fists around you, part of what you're seeing is not a message in the adult sense. It's a body pattern. Their muscles naturally pull inward. Their hands close easily. Touch on the palm can trigger the grasp reflex. Contact can activate automatic responses. Their body is built to hold, curl, root, suck, and organize itself through movement.
So yes, when your baby grips your finger, presses a fist into your chest, or tightens their hands while you hold them, some of that is pure early neurobiology. Their system is still immature. Their body closes before it opens. It reacts before it chooses. But here's what makes this so important for parents to understand. Your presence changes how those patterns show up. Your smell, your skin, your heartbeat, your voice, your movement, even the pressure of being held against you, all of that becomes sensory information for your baby. And because babies are so body-based, they don't just feel you emotionally. They feel you physically, neurologically, rhythmically. That means the clenched fist isn't happening in isolation. It's happening inside a relationship. Around you, your baby's reflexes, tension, feeding readiness, and calming patterns all overlap.
One of the most powerful ideas in infant psychology is that babies use their bodies to manage their world. Adults think through stress. Babies move through it. Adults explain overwhelm. Babies tense, squirm, stare, root, kick, arch, fuss, and sometimes go suddenly still. Their body is both their language and their coping system. And the hands are part of that system. A clenched fist can show readiness, effort, or rising tension. It can happen when a baby is gearing up to feed. It can happen when they're trying to stay organized in a stimulating moment. It can happen when they're working hard to process a face, a sound, a new position, or a change in environment. It can even happen in calm contact, when they're using closeness to settle their system. This is why context changes everything. If your baby has clenched fists while rooting, turning toward the breast, or sucking on their hands, hunger is likely part of the picture. If the fists are tight, but your baby is also frowning, squirming, turning away, or arching, they may be overloaded and trying to protect themselves from too much input. If they're quiet, staring at you, and pressing those little fists into your chest while their body gradually softens, they may be using your body as an anchor while their nervous system settles. That's the twist. Sometimes your baby clenches their fists around you not because they need one specific thing, but because being with you is such a powerful experience that their whole system is organized around it. Your face is stimulating. Your voice is regulating. Your smell is familiar. Your touch is information. For a very young baby, you are not just a person they're near. You are the emotional environment they are learning inside. So those tiny fists may not mean I want something from you. Sometimes they mean I am responding to you. I am trying to organize myself with you here. And that is a much more profound kind of communication than most parents are ever told to look for. The most helpful thing you can do is stop reading the fist by itself. A single cue can be misleading. A pattern is much more reliable. So when you notice clenched fists, zoom out. What is the face doing? What are the eyes doing? Is your baby turning towards something or away from it? Are the movements smooth or jerky? Is the body relaxing over time or getting more tense? If the fists are tight and your baby is bringing hands toward the mouth, making sucking sounds and getting more alert, feeding may be the next step. If the fists are tight, but your baby is looking away, grimacing, kicking hard, or arching back, the need may not be food at all. It may be less stimulation, a change of position, a pause, or a calmer environment. If the fists stay closed while your baby melts into your chest and then slowly opens over time, you may be watching regulation happen in real time. That's why the question is never just, what do clenched fists mean? The better question is, what do clenched fists mean right now, in this moment, with these other cues? And here's the reassuring part. You do not need to decode this perfectly. No good parent gets every cue right. What matters most is that you notice, respond, adjust, and stay emotionally available. That is how babies begin to feel understood. There is one gentle caution worth keeping in mind.
In early infancy, clenched fists are very common and usually completely normal. But if the hands seem persistently very tight over time, if one side looks very different from the other, if the whole body seems unusually stiff most of the time, or if the fists don't gradually loosen more as your baby grows, it's always okay to mention it to your pediatrician. Not because you should panic, but because noticing patterns is part of caring well. And when you take away fear and look clearly, something very comforting begins to emerge from all of this.
The real reason babies clench their fists around you is not one neat answer. It's a layered answer. Sometimes it's hunger. Sometimes it's a reflex. Sometimes it's body tension. Sometimes it's sensory overload. Sometimes it's your baby's way of organizing themselves in the presence of the person who feels most familiar in their world. So no, those little fists are not meaningless. They are part of the earliest language your baby has. A language made of posture, movement, tension, release, closeness, and rhythm. A language that says, this is what my body feels like right now. This is how big the world feels. This is how I'm handling it. And in many moments, this is how I respond to being with you. That means if you've been staring at your baby's clenched fists and wondering whether you're missing something important, the answer is probably not. In fact, the very fact that you noticed means you're already doing something deeply valuable. You're paying attention. You're watching for meaning. You're trying to understand your baby before words exist. That is not overthinking. That is parenting at its most intuitive and most powerful. Over time, your baby's hands will open more. Their movements will become smoother. Their cues will become clearer. But right now, in this early stage, these tiny, mysterious signals are part of how your relationship is being built. Not through perfect interpretation, but through repeated moments of noticing, responding, and learning from each other. So the next time your baby curls those little fists against you, don't just see tension. See communication. See development. See a tiny nervous system trying to organize itself in the safest place it knows. And if this changed the way you see one small baby cue, wait until you see what your baby might be telling you when they suddenly turn their head away from you during play, because that signal is just as misunderstood.